The Russian Revolution was one of the most dramatic political shifts in modern history, marked by the fall of a centuries-old monarchy and the rise of a radical new ideology. From the chaos of World War I to the emergence of Lenin and the Bolsheviks, Russia was plunged into a storm of rebellion, betrayal, and transformation. But what actually happened? Let's dive in, shall we? But before that, can you please take a second to subscribe and like the channel? It's free and it greatly supports my channel. Thank you. At the start of World War I in 1914, Russia entered the conflict as part of the Allied powers alongside Britain and France. The war quickly became a disaster for Russia, exposing the empire's weak industrial base, poor infrastructure, and incompetent military leadership. Soldiers were sent to the front lines without enough rifles, ammunition, or food, and morale collapsed rapidly. On the home front, food shortages, inflation, and growing resentment toward the ruling elite led to rising tensions among workers and peasants. Tsar Nicholas II, the autocratic ruler of Russia, decided to take personal command of the army in 1915, a move that further weakened his regime as it tied him directly to military failures. Meanwhile, his wife, Tsarina Alexandra, governed in his absence and was heavily influenced by the mystic Rasputin, whose corrupt presence undermined the legitimacy of the monarchy. By 1916, discontent had reached a boiling point, setting the stage for revolution. In February 1917, the long-simmering anger against the Tsarist regime exploded into a revolution in Petrograd, the Russian capital. Workers went on strike, and massive protests broke out over bread shortages and the ongoing war. When soldiers were ordered to suppress the protests, many of them mutinied and joined the demonstrators instead. The chaos in the capital escalated quickly, and soon the Duma, Russia's legislative assembly, formed a provisional committee to restore order. With no control over the situation, Tsar Nicholas II abdicated on March 2, 1917, bringing over 3 centuries of Romanov rule to an end. The abdication left a power vacuum that was immediately filled by 2 rival forces, the Provisional Government and the Petrograd Soviet. This dual power structure would dominate Russian politics in the months to come. The Provisional Government, led initially by Prince Lvov and later by Alexander Kerensky, tried to steer Russia toward liberal democracy. However, it made a critical mistake by choosing to continue Russia's participation in World War I. This decision was deeply unpopular with the war-weary public and with soldiers, many of whom had begun deserting en masse. At the same time, the Petrograd Soviet, which represented workers and soldiers, gained influence through its radical and populist stance. Soviets began forming across the country, creating a grassroots network that challenged the authority of the Provisional Government. The Bolsheviks, a Marxist revolutionary faction led by Vladimir Lenin, began to gain momentum by opposing the war and calling for peace, land, and bread. Their slogans resonated with a population desperate for change. Vladimir Lenin had spent years in exile, but the chaos in Russia gave him the opportunity to return. In April 1917, with the help of the Germans who hoped he would destabilize Russia further, Lenin returned to Petrograd in a sealed train. Upon arrival, he immediately began agitating for a second, more radical revolution. He delivered the April Theses, a speech that demanded the overthrow of the Provisional Government, the transfer of power to the Soviets, the end of the war, and land redistribution to the peasants. His uncompromising vision of revolution set him apart from other socialist factions that were willing to cooperate with the government. Though some within the Bolsheviks thought his ideas were extreme, Lenin's charisma and determination began to sway both his party and the masses. He positioned the Bolsheviks as the only true representatives of the people's will. The months that followed were marked by instability and growing polarization. In July 1917, a spontaneous uprising known as the July Days saw workers and soldiers take to the streets demanding power for the Soviets. The provisional government, with support from some military units, crushed the uprising, forcing Lenin to go into hiding in Finland. The Bolsheviks were briefly discredited and their leaders arrested. However, the situation changed dramatically in August when General Kornilov, a right-wing military commander, attempted a coup against the provisional government. Kerensky, now head of the government, had no choice but to arm the Bolsheviks to defend Petrograd. The coup failed, but the Bolsheviks emerged stronger than ever, now seen as defenders of the revolution. Their popularity surged, and they began preparing for another attempt at seizing power.